Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are again. We've got another podcast session ahead of us, and I've got two really good guests, and they're part of an organisation that are friends of the show. They represent SASI, and I've got Lillian Tan, who's the Senior Vice President, Learning and Development, and I've got Charles Edwards, who's the VP, Learning and Development. So guys, lovely to see you both. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Chris. Great to be here.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, well done, well done. And it's nice of Stan to let you out. So we'll say thank you to him at the beginning. All right, he's obviously
don't tell him.
He's obviously paid for the backdrop, so some nice pictures there. Lovely pictures there, Charles and Lillian. We know you've had your hair done specially, so you look lovely.
Oh, no, I can't believe you told everybody that.
Yeah, there you go. We've got a bit of history about that hairdo, so now people will be asking you forever. Right, so listen guys, thank you so much. Now what we do normally is we ask people who come on, just give us a little bit of background, what you do and what your responsibilities are. So we'll start with you, Lillian, if that's okay.
Right, okay. So what I do in SASI, Strategic Aviation Solutions International, is my focus is on learning and development, where we do business development as well as, but more importantly, we focus a lot on the content design and development and delivery of the course. So we do a lot of bespoke or customized training programs for different organizations and ensure that there's a lot of interaction in our courses to enable the participants to really be able to apply that back at work. Very good, very good.
And Charles, I'm hoping you don't just say ditto.
No, my response would be anything she tells me I need to do. So yeah. I do that, right? Again, content development, working out new ways to deliver the product. So of course, recently we've had to put everything virtual, whereas in the past it was in person. But I also work with Stan on digital transformation, digitalization projects, primarily for the airports.
Very good, very good. And we'll come to that shortly. So now, anybody who doesn't know what we've been through over the last 10, 11 months with a series of lockdowns and pandemics and fear, favor, flexibility, all the problem areas that we've had, governments, press, everything. At last, thank God, and please God, there seems to be a little bit more of a brighter light at the end of the tunnel, and so many good things are happening now. And with the vaccines and the experts and the scientists and everybody in the front line, especially on the health side, God bless them all and thank them all. And for anybody that's, been affected or lost loved ones, obviously sympathies go out to them. Now, moving forward, and everybody now wants to get lives back on track. So you've got governments talking about build back better. That to me puts a picture in place that something has been demolished or destroyed. Whereas bring back better means that we're learning from what happened before, and there's definitely going to be a bounce back better. So have we learned enough to be able to cater for the demands and the pressures that's going to come with the inevitable bounce back better? Because it's going to come, and it's going to come in such a flourish, I think, okay? And it's going to be day after day after day, something new, something pressured, something needed, etc. So what I'd like to ask you both just to think about now is, you've got an idea of what pre-COVID, what the training horizon and landscape was like pre-COVID, same as business, okay? And then where we are today, which means if we do something correctly today, we can have a really, really positive impact on how that training and development is geared up, manufactured, delivered and presented for the benefit of everybody tomorrow, when there's going to be such a close eye on the purse strings and sustainability. So if I could just ask you both, it's up to you, just jump in as you like, what you honestly think was the situation and like I said, the landscape of training pre-COVID in general terms now.
Oh, so I'll go first then. Yeah, I was looking at Charles. From our experience with the training that we used to do, and the general landscape, what we found really was that a lot of companies were investing in training, and that was really, really good. How, but when they were focusing a lot on the regulatory courses in classroom, and everybody was looking at, what will I get another certificate, and what does that certificate do for me? How does that help me to progress in my career? And that's excellent. However, it's not a matter of collecting certificates. It's a matter of what do you do with the information, the knowledge, and the skills that you get from the classes that you attend, that you can apply better back at work. So that's one, is the mindset of the individual, and the other thing is, what is the concept, or what is the support the organization provides to help the participants, apply what they've learned back at work.
Okay, very good. And Charles?
And I'll jump in on that. So we don't look at developing training programs, Chris. We look at education. And the difference is, I can train you how to fill out a form, but I educate you as to why you need the or the environment in which the form is needed. So if I train somebody, that's great. It's great for the current situation. But if I educate you when the situation changes, hopefully then you can adapt to the new situation. So pre-COVID, everything was going along. It was like it had always been. COVID comes along, and it's not like this is the first disruption, but it's one of many. And now people can't necessarily rely on the old way of doing things, but if they understand why they were doing that, then they can adapt and be more resilient for change and more sustainable in the long run. And that's always been our mantra when we've developed and delivered these courses.
Okay, good man for mentioning the word why. I always say the acronym for why is what helps you. And as adults, and once we were children, albeit it's a lot longer ago for me than most, but we always used to ask why. But then your parents get so fed up with you, they say, because I've told you so, or because you have to, and you don't actually understand the reason. And that is something that also happens in the workplace. So that difference between training and educating, or being told what to do, as opposed to being allowed to understand why. So it's a little bit like the hungry man. Give him a fish, he's full. Teach him to fish, he'll never be hungry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
Right.
So exactly. I agree with that, Charles, and nice one. Now, what I'd like to ask you both, because and I've never been the brightest bulb in the chandelier, but at least I flicker every now and again. So I might say things that are not right, okay, but I genuinely believe it. There was far too much training for training's sake. And because the focus on business was growth and revenue generation, and then tick box compliance to regulatory issues and just having to do training. Now, I've seen far too many people being sent on training because the ones who should be on it weren't available because they were needed to do the job. And some of them would turn up and not even know why they're there. Now, that's a huge waste of money, time, and it gives the wrong message to people. So firstly, too much training. Secondly, the level of testing or competence-based verification at the end of it was appalling, absolutely appalling. And that goes for an awful lot of what people would assume as regulated or required training. Okay, and people were just following certain check sheets, certain accreditation criteria, whether it's from ISAGO and ISARPS all the way through to ISO and everything else. Tick box, tick box, tick box, robotic attendance and delivery. Now, that was the old way. Now, how would you like to see that? And you said about developing content. How would you like to see that mindset change today, so we can have a much bigger impact tomorrow for the people that have survived this terrible time, and to make them realize that there has been learnings and that they're now going to be part of a new generation of developing and educating rather than training and tick boxing?
I think it goes back to what Charles was saying earlier on, the educating part. And from our perspective is that we believe that the competency framework is important. But again, it's why do you want to have this competency model or framework? Because it helps you to get to a certain pathway. So becoming, for example, like in our cases, logistics or supply chain professional. So in order to do that, if I want to reach that level, this is the framework that we would have to follow, or we would like give the opportunity to the participant to say, well, at this stage in my career, I need this part, this module in order to do that. This is going to complete this part of my education along the roadmap.
Yeah.
So the change we would like to is really to have people focusing on the framework, but it's not a cast in stone framework. It's dynamic. We've got to, and again, going back to what Charles says, is the agility, the flexibility. What is the market? What is our business? What is the sustainability of the business or the environment, whatever that we're focusing on, it requires from us.
Yeah.
And we were able to adjust accordingly and say, well, this is what I need at this point in our life, because we can't, it's not a set pathway now, but it's how do we pick things here and there, modules, and put them together.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, and to follow on with that, Chris, so just talk about DG. So when I started on the ramp in Toronto in 1970, so I may have a few years on you, youngster. Yeah, a few, okay. And the way we handle DG, okay, some of the forms have changed, some of the procedures have changed, but it's basically the same thing, right?
Yep.
Now we've got new types of dangerous goods, and we've also got other types of goods. And this was in part, I believe, why we were asked by ICAO to create the new safe supply chain course.
Yeah.
Is that the environment has changed, the players have changed. Not everything comes through a freight forwarder anymore. You've got a lot of individual shippers that are tendering goods, and they have no clue as to how stuff gets moved. They don't really know about the restrictions, or they may be bad actors and they don't really give a flip, right? And so if you understand why you're doing it, going back to education, as opposed to just doing it because that's the way, as your mother said, you're just going to do it because I told you you have to do it. You add in, quite frankly, an extra level of security and safety into the entire process, because everybody is now empowered to say, wait a minute, this doesn't look right. Yep. Whereas if you're just trained how to fill out a form, you fill out the form and you throw it over the transom, and the next poor person gets it and they have to deal with it. So that's in part and parcel of our belief that you have to educate before you train.
Yeah. So that's clear, Charles, and thanks for that. So that framework that you're talking about, or like a puzzle, has got some really important pieces. Now, I've got a couple of grandkids, so I can't wait to do some jigsaw puzzles with them. But I will be showing them the four most important pieces to start with are your four corners.
Right.
And you go to your straight edges. And once you've got that in place, then you start looking at the picture that you want to replicate. Now, those four corners are so important now as well with regards to training. So you're talking about a journey, a career journey, which, yes, is so important. And I think that needs to be tidied up and clarified. But you're also talking about what's going to have a major impact on the business now, or by the fact that if you attend a particular training or an educational exercise, that when you finish, within a period of time, it's going to make an impact on the end, and it's also going to have retention of knowledge, and it's going to be tested and it's going to be checked, just like if you were a pilot or a surgeon or anybody that had to be, that technical and that re-verified. So it's so important that people start to understand that. And when we come back now, it's those immediate impacts on the business that are going to make sense. Now, what I want to ask you is things that I get so frustrated with, and the way there's disagreement sometimes between different parts of the organization. So you've always got this, this healthy sparring between commercial and operations. One is seen as a break that prevents the creativity and flexibility of commercial, and the other one is seen as a sort of sometimes a runaway vehicle that has to be pulled back so that you can control, and you've got compliance and you've got competence, etc. So that relationship is difficult, but moving forward on this journey now, things like undeclared dangerous goods, unacceptable. Okay. Facilitating undeclared dangerous goods is even worse. And then you've got pharmaceuticals now, which are hitting everybody's front pages and headlines. And you've got organizations who are not packing them properly, not declaring them properly. So, you know, this is where we're talking about now the reasons why. We're talking about people's lives and safety. It's not all about now speed and accuracy and transparency. It's about care.
Absolutely.
Right. Yep.
So when you guys are you know, addressing content and you're redesigning and you're getting ready to do the, you know, bespoke exercise, you know that certain things are happening within the industry, and you know that it's almost now, it's becoming a flood, not a trickle anymore, because of the way e-commerce has grown globally and post, you know, and the way they're done. And you look at how many hundreds, in some cases thousands of pieces are on an e-commerce, shall we say, document record, and they're all mixed. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there has to be now a different type of training to facilitate that awareness, so it's not seen as, well, if I put my hand up or if I complain, I'll get pushed about or I'll get put down or whatever? And also, do you feel that there's an opportunity now to start focusing that requirement and training and awareness and competence upstream at the very beginning of the supply chain?
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, sorry. I'll let Charles go first, you know, because I've been talking first. So you go first, Charles.
Okay. So if you look at the title of the course that we just actually we delivered for the first time a couple of weeks ago for International Civil Aviation Organization, and it's called the Safe Supply Chain course.
Yeah.
What we're doing there, Chris, is beating down all of these stupid silos, which have pervaded every economic activity in the world, not just aviation.
Yeah.
And saying, you have to really think about who is actually making the product, then packaging the product that then they're going to throw in the back of a lorry. It's going to go to the airport, go through a terminal, and end up in the belly of an airplane or on the main deck, depending on the type of plane, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to bring everybody together. You can't just say, this is aviation focused, this is trucking focused, this is terminal focused. Doesn't work anymore, because think about Amazon. Think about yourself. You probably order something on Amazon from time to time, right?
Yeah.
Think about, and as you know, and everybody in this, hopefully watching the podcast knows, there's a variety of players who are involved in that. Well, you now have new players involved, not the Amazons or the Alibabas or the JD Cons. They're big organizations, but what, the 100,000 other e-commerce platforms, most of them haven't got a flipping clue. And but if they're going to participate, and if we're going to have the primary linkages in this, I call it a web, they're no longer chains.
Yeah.
Everybody has got to be on the same page.
Yeah.
And so the training or the education which precedes the training has to bring everybody together.
Yeah.
And that's different from what it was before.
Yeah. I totally agree, Charles. And like everything, business models change, tactics, strategies change, influencing factors change, and like you said, the participants change. But the one thing that's always been very, very, very good about our industry is the, you know, the regulatory controls and the guidelines and the standards. And just because they've been there and now somebody or parties aren't actually part of that old family, you know, way of doing things, it's got to be done quickly. And we can't now come out of a pandemic that has had so much time to reflect and change and see how things have sped on. Because e-commerce to everybody now, it doesn't matter how old, where you are, where you live, everybody's had to do it, whether it's getting things delivered at home, food, whatever. So now is the time to really do it and do it quickly.
Yeah, and
Absolutely. Sorry,
yeah,
go
and
ahead.
just to add on to what Charles and what you just said, Chris, as well, is this is the reason why ICAO wanted us, would like us to design the course, because we came up with we proposed to them that let's look at, all the stakeholders in the chain, right? Upstream, downstream,
Yep.
everyone involved in the process. And like you said, we're very good at, the industry is very good at coming out with regulations, and you got to comply with that. And absolutely, the regulations are there for a reason. But with the course that Safe Supply Chain course is looking at, going back to what you said, the why.
Yeah.
Why do we need to do this? What are all the different roles each stakeholder has to play in the whole supply chain? And the urgency of the whole situation is that with so many, let's say 30,000 packages, on a 10 pallet situation aircraft, you have 30,000 going through that system. Question is that, are all the different stakeholders aware of the roles and responsibilities?
Yep.
Do they connect the dots? And then, for example, if the e-commerce, right, and the hidden DG goods that are in the e-commerce packages, who's going to pick up all of the safety issues?
Yep.
Because the post office is not going to do that. It always ends up at the ground handlers or the airlines. But if you're not training your people to be aware of that, we're going to have an incident. Imagine if all you have to do is just, what happens if you have a blast?
Yep.
The DG goes off, and that's it. The fatality, the reputation to your company, those are horrendous situations or scenarios to think about, right? So really looking at, breaking down the silos. How do we get everyone in the supply chain understanding what my role is? And the focus now is a lot on vaccines, right?
Yep.
On vaccines. That's very important because we need to get them out as soon as possible in the best possible way required by the handling instructions, right? But the e-commerce part is the huge part. We are moving at a pace so fast. Question is that, are we all ready, every one of us in the supply chain, ready to handle those kind of cargo? Where's the capacity building? Do we have the right people? We can get the equipment, but do we have the right people to handle and screen the cargo, for instance?
100%, 100%. And you just reminded me of something there. We did a podcast just recently, and I think Salem's going to pump it out next week or shortly, with a company called Mitigate. Okay, and it's a company that's made up of a university in Germany and also most of the large pharma producers. Now, what they've done is they've got together and they've got a system which actually does lane risk assessment based on certain criteria. So people are becoming more educated now in what they need to do and how they need to do it and why they need to do it. So, with that in mind as well, it's so important now that we do the right thing with people. So we combine that journey that you spoke about earlier, but we also now look at having a different mindset when it comes to training and education for the benefit of the business and giving it a more solid foundation and stability. So now when it comes to individuals, they need to appreciate, I think, and be shown that don't automatically see things as fear when it's this change, because we've got to now look at what level of upskilling do we do, new skilling, cross skilling, and multitask skilling, because I think in the future, whether it's airports, whether it's groups or whatever, they're going to have a reservoir of flexibility, so that then you spoke earlier about agility and resilience, and to be able to pivot with that benefit, you're going to have people who can cover lots of different tasks and a different way of approach. So again, if you're creating and you're focused on the important things, which is the safe supply chain, then it's this, maybe it's the why of the supply chain that's also necessary, so people can start to do things without being forced to or being in fear of it. Because so much of the press and the way the marketing has gone with, if you want to get into this industry, or you want to get back, or you want a new job, or you want to find a job, that's the wrong way to be doing things, because too many people have been displaced through no fault of their own.
Right. So I'm going to go away from aviation for a minute if I can, and just talk about changes. So in manufacturing, and a lot of people still perceive, especially of my generation, manufacturing is dirty and dangerous and low skill and all of that. Go into any manufacturing plant now, even a steel mill,
Yep.
and it's been totally changed. And people were afraid, well, they're going to put a robot here or automate that there or whatever. Okay, so there's been some reduction in labor forces, but the types of jobs that have been left are safer, they're cleaner, they require definitely more computer skills, because you're running a computer, you're not there in the middle of the door of the blast furnace, whatever.
Yep.
And that is going, I mean, that is slowly coming into the transportation environment, whether it's marine or air or road or rail. And, don't be fearful of it, but be ready for it. And that's where we believe that you can't just train based on an old method or an old environment. You've got to be ready to accept that there will be change. Don't be fearful of it, and then take advantage of it.
Yeah, and that comes back to your point, Lillian. And thanks very much for that, Charles. That comes back to your point, Lillian, about the journey.
Mhm.
And I think also management and organizations need to also be aware of how to support that journey, because just because somebody at a certain age or a certain part of that journey
Mhm.
wants to focus on their own personal ecosystem, their family, their interests outside of work, their health, etc., they don't necessarily want to take on that pressure or stress or being on a mobile phone accessible 24/7 or wanting to be the CEO. So the majority of people that a good organization wants are the ones who are working for a company because they feel the company cares about them. So then they care about the company and its assets. But at any point they decide to put themselves forward for something that they want to do because of, that should be welcomed, because you can't have everybody wanting to be the top lady or the top man or the top person at all the time. So that sort of training for managers and the different ways of thinking, with not just in the old days of succession or how to promote people and stuff. This is an opportunity to totally rewrite the rule book.
Mhm. Absolutely, and it's we need a different mindset of what leadership is. It's We can't do things, and it's been changing. It's been changing in industry, but I think some of the other industries are far ahead compared to ours, and so there's still a lot of opportunity for us to actually to do something with how we want to groom and support the people that we think have the opportunity, and we all bloom or blossom at different times in our lives. Some of us are slow bloomers, and some of us are faster, but that doesn't mean that I cannot contribute. And I'm very passionate about this, is how do we sort of like balance the youth and the energy that we have from the younger people who have a lot of the technological skills, and we really need those, but at the same time also tap the experience of older folks in the industry, so that we can try to manage and curate that knowledge and the skills that we have, and balance out the system in our company, in our different companies. And I think that's a huge challenge, but that takes a mindset of what is the company all about, right? Are we chasing just after the dollar, the money? Of course we are in business to make money, but what else can we do to make us the employer of choice, that people want to work for us?
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of footfall around that now as we come out of it.
Yeah.
And what you said there about the balance of age and experience and youth and opportunity, I also think it's so important to get that right, because you see so many people that were leaving the business, and obviously just talking about our business now, they were leaving the business before, and almost the time that they either decided it or the business decided it, whatever, as soon as that decision was made, it's as if they've been thrown on the scrap heap or they're gone. And then some of them develop a bitterness, some of them develop a boldness that they want to prove or they want to keep doing something. But if there was a nice way of having people to be able to pass on their passion and their engagement and their energy in a particular subject matter to somebody that was coming up, without one feeling that, oh, they're just telling me the best way to do it, and the other one feeling that they're not interested because they can look up on their iPhone or their Android and see what the answers are. If we could just teach people to accept it and develop it and be better, it's a lovely thing, because the one thing, hopefully, that everybody experiences is being young and then being old.
Mhm.
And the older you get, there's something that I say to, I've said it to my kids so many times, but to the other youngsters is, I wish I was what I was when I wished I was what I am.
Mhm.
And don't rush it, enjoy it, and make sure you do it as best as you can, but enjoy that journey.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's something that a company has to decide, what's the balance there, right? Each company has its own business model, so they have to decide on what the balance is. And if you talk to your people, the personnel, you provide them with the opportunities, be it career opportunities, if that's what they want, the roadmap, or the opportunity to just get training, just for like what you said, I'm happy doing what I am. This is, let it be, looking at it and say, how can we support everyone to reach the potential? I think it's really reaching the potential of each individual. I think perhaps it's not possible in some cases to have everybody, say, well, everybody working from home, that kind of thing, because we have a business to run at the end of the day. But it's how much are we willing to adjust and helping? And Charles mentioned something, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say something like this, because like thinking out of the box, right? We all like to be challenged. If I can support you, I give you the ecosystem for you to, if I'm on the ramp, I have the rules to follow, but I'm given the support to say, well, think outside the box. What's the situation here? Do I need to fix it? Will that not inspire? Some people might not want to take it up, but a lot of people will want to take it up. Will that not inspire people to want to do more for the company?
Yep.
And create the new generation, even though I may be older or whatever, but that could be the new generation of the leaders that could be, helping the company move forward.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. That's.
Yeah. No, it does. And you brought up about leadership, and I think that word and what's expected or what's thought in most companies, I think you've got a problem where certain people get selected for whatever reason, or they put themselves forward, and then they almost feel as if they're alienated by their old colleagues, but they're not. It's just that there becomes a difference in understanding and awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we start to address leadership of the future in a different way, because you've got mental anxiety issues, you've got stresses, you've got all sorts of things that people have to take into account, plus the political correctness, which has gone crazy. So you've got so many different elements. I think that there needs to be a sort of a ratio or a formula that for whatever amount of time you spend training people how to lead better, you need to train the people that are being led how to be better led, and to appreciate why somebody somewhere has to take the responsibility to be the leader, and why it's more successful if others embrace it and understand what their pressures are and start to support it. So you've got enablers and supporters. And I think if that sort of a relationship happens, you're not alienating and making some sort of a group look elitist, which in lots of businesses it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then especially in our business, I was talking to somebody earlier today, unfortunately you get too many people with a 747 ego and a Cessna warehouse or hangar. And all those issues, it's all about teams, it's all about living, it's about caring, and hopefully, please God, it's about having a laugh and a smile every day that you're with the people that you spend so much time with.
Right. And we carry that through in our the organization of our courses, the design of our courses.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked about earlier, Chris, about these constant testing and common standards and all of that. Well, in all of the courses that we have created and delivered, we don't like to have a final test per se. There is a final test, but we give the participants a case and we see how they work together to come up with solutions. We don't, like a normal teaching case, we don't give them all of the information that they need. So how inventive are they in searching out different information? But then how do they work together? And more importantly, how do they come as a team to make their presentation?
Mhm.
That's the approach that is needed in this. Well, it's always been needed, but I think it's needed even more so now. I mean, here in the United States, there is a growing body of research saying end of year tests, end of class tests are ludicrous. And there's better ways to determine whether or not the student has learned the material and, more importantly, can apply the material.
Yeah.
And again, that's our approach to developing our programs.
Yeah, no, competence, and you can still, as a training group, or as the lead in that particular course, you can still grade people for the way they contribute as part of that exercise. But most people will think to themselves, my God, she did really well there, or he did really well there. I need to think about that. Or, okay, that was really good. Now I can see why that person is being fast tracked there, or I appreciate the skills, etc. So there's different facets of that learning or that education which comes with it, but it's still competency based, because at the end of the day, if you've got something very drastic or very, very high critical or high impact, it doesn't matter what sort of group exercise you do. If they can't do it, they can't do it.
Right. I mean, there's an old adage, you can't teach a subject until you understand the subject. And that's what we try and do in all of our courses. We give them the materials, we work through the materials. At the end of the day, if they, through their presentation and collaboration, if they can't do that final step, we know we failed them. It's not that they failed, it's we as instructors have failed because they haven't grasped it.
Yeah.
And I like to say that I usually tell the class that, by the end of the session or the course, you are actually going to have more questions than answers. And that's what we like them to do, is to challenge them to do critical thinking in it, then creative thinking as well. It's what does that mean to me as a personal subject, or what does that mean to me in the organization? How do we do this in our organization? So all of these questions will make them think about and if we've done that, we've succeeded in encouraging them to think in a different way and to come up with creative ideas.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think people are going to be looking at their careers a lot more now, and I think one of the things that's going to happen, which is good for our industry, not so good for some others, is people are going to look at which industries were hugely affected and what industries are necessary for people, for governments, for countries, for everything to keep going. So especially, I've been in cargo nearly all my life, apart from a short spell in passenger, but they've never been in the spotlight as much as they are now. They've never had as much importance as there is now. So I would think people coming in, they're going to say, well, whatever happens in the world, we've got to keep distributing and supplying. And now you've got the shipping issue with, not enough containers being built, and some located in areas where they can't be picked up. So it's causing a shortage elsewhere. And then there's other industries. So I think a lot more people are going to be focused on it. So if we now have the chance to rewrite the rule book and show how the sustainability of education and succession and leadership can be done in a much more effective way, we've got a wonderful chance. So the last question I've got for you both is, you've had the chance to reflect on what it was like pre-COVID. You guys have done an awful lot. And obviously you've come up, like you were saying, with the ICAO Safe Supply Chain course. So you're doing things today to influence the future. What would you like everybody to have as their top 3 list of things that they should be working on now and considering before it's too late with regards to developing and training and supporting their labor force?
I have to think about that. Is that in relation to the business or just personal?
Just so like at this moment in time now, all of us, you know, that in our industry now, everybody's waiting for the doors to be opened, the bells to ring, and then you're going to get confidence and consumers back flying, passengers, etc., which is going to increase the capacity that's available, which is going to make everything a lot more effective, and it's going to get people back. Now, that's going to mean where people have combined terminals at airports. Now, when you open it, how much do you allow the pressure to be in one terminal before you open another? You know, how much people do you bring back? What sort of training do you give them before they come back? So you've got all those issues. So from a perspective, if you were able to have a complete whiteboard and say, look, every single company should do this, this, and this, because. What would you like to see?
Yeah. For me, it's, I guess the first one is, are you customer-centric?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
What is the customer experience that you need to create for everyone's competing on the same products and services. We are very fond of our term product portfolio. It's, you know, what do you have that will help your customers to do their jobs better?
Yeah.
Or to allow them to, you know, provide that service. So the customer-centric part of it. The other thing, it's based on the product portfolio. It's then, you know, does our strategy encompass, right, all the different functions that will help you to achieve the results? It sounds like a mouthful, rather than, you know, operations more important or sales is more important, like what you said early on. But it's, you know, how do we all work together? And that's the theme that's been going around in a lot of podcasts and articles, collaboration. How do we work with each other across the world? It's just not one SWAT team in a particular location. It's pulling together everybody in, you know, the necessary people in different parts of the world, in the company, for instance, or with partners to work together to provide that service, you know, to meet a particular challenge, for instance. Yeah. So do we have that? So that's for me too, the key items. And then do we have the people? The third one will be, do we have the right people in place? How are we supporting them?
Yeah.
Are we just looking at knowledge and skills, or are we also looking at what are the leadership skills that are required? Not technical skills alone, but what are the leadership skills that are required to help us move forward? So don't look at the now, but because now we all focus on vaccines and what, you know, how do we move the business forward? What is the business going to look like in 5 years' time?
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. And like you said, you know, lots more sectors and segments of the supply chain should start collaborating rather than competing with everybody. And if we collaborate as an industry, then, you know, we'll do well as an industry. But if we keep competing with each other and stopping each other from developing and getting benefits, we'll just slow ourselves down as an industry. So, yeah. And Charles?
So I'm going to draw on a couple of the statements that Lillian stated, I guess, and we use a body of research that actually started in the late 80s, and it's called The Power of We.
Yeah.
And it relates to working together, supporting each other. It's no longer a win-lose, it's a win-win. And okay, you have to give something up, but at the end, you know, all boats rise with the rising tide.
Yeah.
That's really important. Another thing is, and we briefly touched on it, is embracing change. Well, digitalization is a form of change. Understand that you're not all going to lose your jobs. Your jobs are going to change.
Yeah, that's it.
And times for the better, right?
Yeah.
And also, it requires not all leaders in order to have a digital environment. So going back to a previous statement that you made, Chris, you need to be comfortable in what you're doing and understand how important your role is. That's part of leadership. If you can't explain to somebody on the ramp or in the terminal how important their role is in the entire ecosystem, you're not doing a good job.
Yep.
As your roles may change, or as your duties or assignments may change, you need to, as a good leader, explain why it's changing, give the people the tools, whether it's real training or education or whatever term you want to use, right?
Yep.
And then you're going to have a happier staff member and partner in this, as opposed to somebody who shows up, punches the clock, goes out, does their job, goes home and complains about the lousy day they just had.
Yeah.
They're going to be more excited about coming. They're going to be better when they're there, and they're going to go home and express to their family and friends, hey, this is a great career. And then you'll start attracting more people back into the business, which we're going to have to do anyway. I'm not sure about you, but at some point I really will retire. And so, who's going to come behind me?
Yeah, no, but you got to keep teaching, Charles. Keep teaching, keep educating. But I agree with you there, and it's a mindset thing, and it's so important. It's so important for people to enjoy what they do, because what's the saying? If you love what you do, you never work another day in your life. And we spend so much time, and once everybody appreciates that, you have to work to live, and why not enjoy it, or at least appreciate it? But it comes back to that old team ethic. Everybody can't be the centre forward who scores the goals all the time, and everybody can't be the fullback, the goalkeeper. But if you have to be a fullback, you just try and be the best fullback, and don't want to be somebody else, and don't let them think less of you, but you're doing something different, and that's the way, But
yeah, there was a general policy again here in the US and also in Canada that in order to get ahead, you had to have a university degree.
Yep.
Well, that's really stupid. And it's just inane. And that basically said that y'all had to be leaders in order to be successful. Well, again, I'm sorry, but business doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And we try through our courses to express that and to lift up people who will never be the managing director of the cargo department. But if they're not out there as a customer service agent, working with the customers, handling the goods, it doesn't matter how good the managing director is, nothing will move.
Yep. Nothing as important as people, and how they're educated helps them, whether it's in working life or in academic life or whatever.
Right.
But the one thing is sure as hell, we need to be doing things a little bit differently now moving forward. So I wish you both the utmost of success. Fair play to you, and good luck with everything that you do. And for everybody in the industry, I think we've got some really, really good times ahead now, and we mustn't waste them.
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited about the future in the industry.
Yeah, and it's clear you both care, and that's the most important thing. Any human being can do whatever line of work they're in. So, well done, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell Stan we appreciate him letting you out for a little while, not screwing you to the desks and recreating more training.
All right, thank you.
Does that mean you're going to tell him that, because he doesn't know?
No, I'm going to tell him they're only on for 10 minutes down there to rush back, mate. They were creating some more magic.
All right then.
Take
care, guys.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.